My grandmother had tons and tons of tomatoes in the garden. And come fall, she had tons and tons of canning jars too, the ones with the bale on top, the glass. And she and my aunts, the two who hadn't married yet, they'd start bringing the tomatoes in the house. They'd get a big, big Dutch oven full of water boiling on the stove. And they would they'd wash the tomatoes off first. They'd drop them in and I remember they'd count it to 10. They'd count to 10, pull the tomato out with a slotted spoon, put it down, and as soon as it was cool enough to touch, you just make a mark with a knife, and the whole thing, the skin just slips right off, and it would go in a canning jar. Cut it in half or fourths, and it would go in a canning jar. And then she had a big canner, and it had the partitions for the canning jars, and so then she'd bake. Hello, she'd can the tomatoes. The garden was more towards the street, towards South Champlain Street, and the chicken coop was more towards Pine Street to the east. And in between, it was all garden space. And one of the big Lebanese things is mint. So she had a whole pile of mint. The Lebanese word is narnar. So she had her narnar out there. That was good for tabbouleh, and it was good for these potatoes that you do. The mint went into the potatoes. It went into the kibbe, which is the meatloaf with that ground round that I was talking about from Georgie's Market. It went into this, it's kind of like a stew. The base of it is yogurt, which the Lebanese word is laban. You would take your laban and mix it with water and put some fried onion and a little bit of rice, and the starch from the rice kind of thickens it. And you would make some kibbe meatballs, but stick some mint in them too. And also make these little dumplings. And the dumplings were just like the Chinese dumplings. They looked like that. They were just folded over, and you drop them into the hot stew. And they would have some mint and some onion and a little bit of meat in the middle of them too.